Okay, here I have the product table open, and I want you to just focus on the material field right now. Notice that some of these materials repeat again and again and again. So when you do data entry, this can get quite repetitious. You get tired very quickly about typing the same thing over and over and over again. So the idea is this: we want to be more efficient, okay? Now, in order to be more efficient, what we've got to do is we've got to create either a table or a query of different materials first. So we've got a little bit of work ahead of us. It's not hard work, it's just a little bit of typing work. But this work is going to make life a little bit easier for us in the long run. Okay? So here's what I want to do. I eventually want to be able to make a query that has just materials in them. And if I get a new product that has that's made out of a new material, I can enter that into that query, which will enter it into the corresponding table. And then I won't have to, when I have to enter a new value, I won't have to go back and type everything in again. I'll be able to select a little arrow here to the right, and all my materials will drop down in a list. So how do we do that is what we want to do. Okay, so here's how we do it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export this entire product table to an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to say external data. I want to export to an Excel spreadsheet, export data with the formatting and layout, and I want to open up the destination file after I've exported. So I click on those two. Now in this lesson I'm going to export this directly to my desktop. In your case you probably want to export it to your documents folder, but I'm going to export it to my desktop. So let's go ahead and do that. I click OK. Alright. Now it should open up. Bam, there it is. Okay, now really all I care about here is my materials. That's all I care about. So these columns right here, I'm literally just going to delete them. These columns here, I'm going to literally just delete those. Okay, and so now I have one column for just materials. All right. So what do we do now? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of things that repeat. So I'm going to highlight the rows that repeat. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. That's done. Okay. And then let's see. I've got another two right here that are still powder-coated steel. Done. Okay, got one here. Done. So anything that repeats, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. Now notice how this is taking up some time. Okay, having to do this. This is the painful part. Let's go ahead and highlight these. Right click, delete. And if you actually wanted to go through the list and just type the list into a brand new Access table, you can do that. I'm just going to, since I've already started this process, I'm just going to finish it this way. So I delete the extra natural stone. I've got a couple precast concretes here, so I delete. Make sure you don't delete all of something. You only want one of any particular thing, okay? So you only want one. Precast concrete, PVC, flat wood chips, shredded cypress, cedar pine, soft pine, screen top soil, sifted soil compost. Here's a duplicate there. So I don't want that. I'll delete that. Screen topsoil. Yep, I've got, oh, this one's screened topsoil. So that should, I'll keep that. Powder coated steel, got those two already at the top. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's scroll down a little bit here. Okay, I've got several vinyls, so I'll delete these ones right here. Okay, good. Bronze, powder-coated aluminum is new, but this one I'll go ahead and delete. Okay, so all of these now should be individually unique. And that's what we're looking for, all these to be individually unique. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to save it as materials. And I'm going to save it right on my desktop. Again, you probably want to save it in your documents folder. So I'm going to save this as materials. Okay, that's done. Let's go ahead and close it. back to Access. Wants me to save that export. I'll go ahead and save it. Yeah, hit cancel. I don't care about that. All right. Now, I'm going to close the product table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import data source into a new table. Okay? So let's go ahead and hit Browse. I'm going to navigate to my desktop. You're going to navigate to your Documents folder. Import materials. Done. Okay. Hit OK. Now, first row contains column heading, so that's material. Done. First name material. Data type is text. Indexed. I'm going to say no. Hit Next. Let Access choose my own primary key. I'm going to say yes. Hit Next. And I'm going to import this materials. And actually, what I want to do in this case, TBL, begin the table name with TBL underscore materials. All right, let's save import. Hit save import. Done. All right, I now have a table of materials right here. Okay, now let's close that table. Save the changes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a very quick query. So create query design, and I'm only going to add in table materials, and all I want is just the material value. That's it. Run the query. Done. So now here are all my materials. I'm going to save the query as QRY materials. Done. Good. Now I have a query called materials. All right, now we're ready to save ourselves some work. So I'm going to go back to the product table, open it up. All right. Now, again, what's the objective? The objective is to create a data structure so that a little arrow appears to the right here so that I can get a drop-down box. And instead of having to type in the name over and over and over again, I can just select it from the drop-down box. That's when I create a new record for the product table. So down here, if I wanted to create a new record, I can just click on that arrow, puts a drop-down box, and I can just select what I want. So here's what I do. I go to Design View. Okay. I focus on the material field name, and then right here for this tab under Field Properties, I select the Lookup tab. I'm going to change the display control from a text box to something called a combo box. And then Access generates a whole new set of fields for this combo box. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to select a source, a row source. So the source that we're going to choose is from our query, not the table. Access should be able to do this from the table, but I haven't been able to get it to work because I'm doing something wrong probably. So that's why I've made the query, and I would like you to make the query too. So I select a query, okay? Now it's bound to the very first column in that query. If I go to the queries right here, query materials, the very first column is the material. So that part is okay. So I go back here, okay? It's bound to the first column. Right now I'm going to ignore the rest of these values. I'm going to go ahead and go to the View. Yeah, I want to save that table. And now look what happens. When I select material, a little arrow appears, and voila! I now can be more efficient in my data entry. I don't have to type everything over and over and over again. So this combo box helps me to be more efficient. So if I make a new data entry down here, if I made a new record here, I could select my material straight from that list. Okay? Now, a couple things to notice. First thing you're going to want to do is you want to make sure you base your row source on a query. That's not universally true. You should be able to base it on a table, but I haven't been able to get that feature to work. You might be able to. I can't seem to get it to work today. I can get it to work off of a query though. The second thing you need to know is you need to know what the bound column is. Okay, well, what is the bound column? Well, let's say in query materials, I had another column over here and it was secondary materials. Well, if I had secondary materials in a second column, and if I changed the bound column to the number 2, then my drop box in the datasheet view would have all of the items from that second column in the query. So that's what the bound column represents. Okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you in the product table to create your own query using the methods that I just did for color. In other words, you're going to create a color table, then you're going to create a basic color query, and you're going to create a combo box for the color field, just like I did for the material field. Okay? So that's your objective.